good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Congressman Diane Black, and I want to start by commending the Green and the Hahn family, as well as over 300 plaintiffs nationwide that have challenged this administration's unconstitutional HHS mandate. The HHS mandate is a threat to religious freedom, and it jeopardizes Americans' long-held tradition of respecting conscience. Furthermore, the HHS mandate puts jobs, livelihood, and health care of millions of Americans at risk. It forces those who stand up for their conscience to choose between paying crippling fines that could shut down their business or dropping health care coverage for all their employees. If an employer provides health care coverage that fails to cover just one of the controversial drugs included in the mandate, they could be fined up to $36,500 per employee per year. Yet, if an employer provides no health care coverage whatsoever, the fine is only $2,000 per year. Only Obamacare could create a system that carries 18 times the fine for providing insurance coverage to employees than for not providing any coverage at all. Every American, including job creators, should be free to live and work according to their beliefs. But the HHS mandate demands that Americans comply and violate their principles or stand up for their civil rights and be punished. Respecting freedom of conscience is a long-held American tradition, and the government should not impose mandates or laws that force individuals and businesses to violate this freedom. This mandate will threaten charities and hospitals that take care of the poor, the sick, the homeless, and those who have no place else to turn for help. In the fight to protect religious freedom, we must act on all fronts, whether through the courts or through the acts of Congress. While I am optimistic that the Supreme Court will act responsibly and overturn this unconstitutional mandate, I also have introduced H.R. 940, the Healthcare Conscience Protection Act, legislation that would provide full exemption from the HHS mandate. Increasing access to health care should not require employers or employees to choose between coverage and their conscience. I thank you for joining us, and I would now ask that Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota would come and offer a few comments.
Diane, thank you, and thank you for your leadership on this extremely important issue. You know, one thing that's very clear is that the act known as Obamacare is not fair. It's not fair to people all across the United States, because we know that today there's an estimate over 100 million Americans who are exempt from some of the dictates under Obamacare. Why? Because waivers have been given, whether it's to unions or universities or various employers, where some of the mandates for Obamacare are not applicable to those employees. It's important that all Americans be treated equally under the law. That's what our Constitution guarantees, equal protection under the law. But it's not so equal when it comes to Obamacare. The father of our Constitution was none other than James Madison. And we were just treated the week before last to an author of a Madison biography. The Library of Congress had some of the original documents written in the handwriting of the author of the Constitution. One of those documents was the handwritten amendment, First Amendment to our Constitution. Therein, James Madison scratched out the original language that said full tolerance for religious expression. Full tolerance was scratched out, and instead the word free expression and free exercise were put instead. In other words, America wasn't just guaranteeing freedom of belief. We Americans were guaranteed freedom of expression. Family businesses should also have the freedom of expression for their religious liberty rights. It's only fair.
Thank you, Michelle. And now my good friend from Missouri, Vicki Hartzler.
Thank you, Diane. You know, there's a portrait in the rotunda of the Capitol, the embarkation of the Pilgrims. And it brings us back to what started this country and why people came here. And it was for religious freedom. And as Michelle said, the freedom of expression to live and to do as they wish. And here we have in this Supreme Court case two families who are following the American dream and who are providing quality health care for their employees, as well as many other generous benefits. But all those jobs and their American dream is being jeopardized by this government that is saying, as Diane said, they're going to be fined $36,500 per employee just because they do provide health care, but just not for abortion-inducing drugs. Now, that is wrong. And it's wrong for the other 94 courageous people in this country who have filed similar lawsuits. One of them from my district. We have Sioux Chief Manufacturing Company, began as a family-owned business and providing plumbing wholesale supply. And they began just in a very small square foot, third floor area of down in downtown Kansas City. And now they have grown to having facilities over 300 square feet, being one of the premier plumbing supply equipment suppliers in the country. They have 300 employees. And with the fines facing them, because of their faith, they could be paying roughly $900,000 per month. It is wrong. I applaud the Green and Hahn families for standing up against this unjust mandate, and I look forward to the Supreme Court standing with the First Amendment and with the people of this country.
Next, we have Virginia, who is from Virginia Fox from North Carolina.
Thanks, Diane. My hope is that the Supreme Court sees fit to stand up for religious liberty and stop this assault on business owners who believe their faith does not begin and end at the church door. Americans should be free to practice their religion and conduct their business without unnecessary interference from Washington. It's striking that this administration, which has shown a willingness to provide extra legal accommodations from aspects of this law on a wide variety of issues, has refused to accommodate religious business owners who are providing health care coverage for their employees. It's a testament to the anti-religious animus of this administration that it's fine for providing health insurance, as my colleagues have said, that does not cover contraceptives is 18 times larger than the fine for providing no health insurance at all. This is wrong, as all of my colleagues have said, and the Supreme Court needs to rule such. Thank you.
Next, we have Representative Kevin Brady from Texas.
I first want to thank Congresswoman Black and the women and men of the Republican Conference fighting for religious freedom today. You know, no American should be forced to choose between their religious beliefs and the law. But that's what the president's health care law does. It forces Americans to choose between submitting to unnecessary federal mandates or violating the tenets of the religious faith. Our Constitution demands the freedom for every American to freely practice their religion. In fact, that right is named above all others. Thomas Jefferson said no provision in our Constitution ought to be dearer to man than that which protects the right of conscience against the enterprises of civil authority. He knew that our diverse society's religious beliefs could not be dictated by a central government. And that's as true today as it was 200 years ago. The president's using this law to punish companies who are trying to do the right thing by paying their workers high wages and generous benefits, including providing comprehensive health care. All they want to do is to be free to follow their conscience by not purchasing, not participating in the purchase of drugs or devices that terminate the life of a precious unborn child. The president's given exemptions for political reasons, but not for religious faith. He's choosing to lay down job-killing fines on those who believe in protecting, in this case, the sanctity of life. In America, being a job creator shouldn't mean you can no longer live and work according to your beliefs. That's why these women and men are here today. That's why this issue is so important to every American.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have James Langford, who actually represents the Green family. James?
For many people, they see the Green family and they think these are some corporate tycoons. These are neighbors. They live a mile from my house. My family knows their family. We spend time together. They couldn't be quieter. They couldn't be more gentle. This is not something they pursued. This is something that actually came after them. They started their business in a very small garage with just their family, and they practice their business as they do their own individual faith. They close on Sundays. They close early on Wednesday nights. They pay well more than minimum wage even for starting work. I mean, they do great health care coverage for their employees. They play Christian music in their stores. I mean, they practice their faith the same way now in their stores when they're large as when they started as a very small family business. And the argument has come to them when the administration, not through the law itself, but through the regulations that were promulgated from the law, that the administration comes to them and says, we don't agree with how you practice your faith at work. You have to change to our religious preferences, or we'll shut down your company by fines that are so large that will actually devastate their company. So the challenge that the Supreme Court really had today is, does a person only have the right to live their faith at home and at play, or can they also live their faith at work? If you become a large company, do you suddenly lose your constitutional rights? When you're a small company, you have constitutional rights. When you're a large company, you don't. The Supreme Court's dealing with very, very serious issues today. And I would hope that they rule on what the most basic principles we have as a society, that people have the right not only to speech, we have a right to a free press, but we also have the right of religious faith as well.
Thank you, James. And next we have the chairman of the Values Action Team, Joe Pitts from Pennsylvania. Joe.
Thank you, Diane. Thanks so much for leading the effort on reestablishing the right of conscience, freedom of religion. I had the privilege of sitting in the Supreme Court this morning and listening to the oral arguments. And the Hans, one of the litigants, Conestoga Wood Specialties, are my constituents. I know them. I've visited their business. I've talked to their employees. Mr. and Mrs. Norman Hahn, the founders, started their business about 50 years ago in their garage. Today, they have 950 employees, and their son and his wife were there as well, and they're essentially running the business. But these are sincere Mennonites who seek to live their lives and practice their faith everywhere they live, in their businesses. And I've talked to many other family-owned businesses in the area Mennonite run, and they're very supportive of their efforts, and I'm very proud of their stand and their willingness to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. I listened very attentively this morning. I think our side won the case. I think at the end when the Solicitor General said that employers could be forced to pay for abortions, he lost the case. I think he probably lost Kennedy, maybe even Kagan. And our side based our arguments based on the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, on statute primarily, not necessarily the constitutional argument. And I think when you listen to the arguments and listen to the questions and answers, the court is very respectful of Congress setting policy through statutes. So I really feel good about what I heard this morning. This is really about faith and freedom, the opportunity to not be compelled by the government to provide something that violates your religious beliefs. Pennsylvania has a long tradition and history of that. The Hans forefathers, the Mennonites, the Anabaptists, the Quakers, came to Pennsylvania when William Penn solicited people who were being discriminated against, persecuted in countries in Europe, to come to the colony of Pennsylvania where they could live freely according to their religious dictates. And it's a tradition that is as old as America, and I am very hopeful the Supreme Court will continue to uphold that principle. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your work on behalf of everyone who stands for values. And now to tie it all up, we have Representative Steve Scalise, who is the chairman of our RSC. Steve?
Thanks, Diane. Religious freedom is under attack by the Obama administration. It's unfortunate, as all of our colleagues here, and I'm proud to stand with my colleagues in support of Hobby Lobby and any other American company who shouldn't have to choose between violating their religious beliefs just to run a business and comply with the law. And that's at the heart of this case that was argued before the court today, and we surely hope that the court does the right thing and pushes back on this overreach by the Obama administration in trying to trample on those religious beliefs that Americans hold so dear. But the Obama administration is not ending this attack with companies like Hobby Lobby. The Obama administration is going after people who actually express their religious faith in groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor, who literally are being forced to buy abortion-inducing drugs just because they want to go out and practice their Christian beliefs in helping others. So this administration is not just stopping with corporations. They're going after people that are actual religious organizations like Little Sisters of the Poor in an attack on religious freedom. And again, when you look at what our founding fathers meant when they created a government under God, they created this nation as a nation whose laws are not given by man, but are given through our founding fathers by God. They wrote about that. They talked about that. You can go look at the inscriptions in our buildings. One nation under God is right above the Speaker's rostrum in the Capitol. You go to the Jefferson Memorial, and he talked about how important it was to maintain a belief in God. Thomas Jefferson wrote about that. It's actually emblazoned on the Jefferson Memorial. So our founders understood how important religious freedom and expression was. It's one of the reasons why it's the very first amendment in the Bill of Rights, and yet it is under attack by the Obama administration. I'm proud to stand with my colleagues to stand up for those rights, and hopefully the Supreme Court joins with us in recognizing that this is a right that can't be trampled on by any president with his attempt through the health care law to take away those religious beliefs.